HBO Max just released Judas and the Black Messiah starring Daniel Kaluuya and Lakeith Stanfield. This one's definitely going to hit home for Chicago, and we got a lot to talk about. This is the rundown. So let's start with the premise. The movie starts in Chicago in 1968 with our titles Judas being William O'Neill impersonating an FBI agent. And then after being caught and being told how much time he was going to get, he was given what he thought was an easier alternative by being an informant for the FBI against the Black Panther Party. Specifically, the title's Messiah, Fred Hampton. In the movie, Fred Hampton talks about the difference between war and politics, saying that war is politics with bloodshed, politics is war without bloodshed, with the most fundamental factor in overthrowing the government being the people. Now, his viewpoint during the civil rights movement and Jim Crow, I could definitely understand as it pertains to black people who were looking for equality while also facing other atrocities due to the justice system at that time. He's talking about oppressed people reclaiming a sense of power through a unified front, since it's a known fact that there's strength in numbers. However, when I first heard it, I couldn't help but immediately think about the recent event of the insurrection at the Capitol, which is just a little over a month prior to the movie coming out, and when the well-intentioned ideology of one person, when handled by someone with ill intentions and influence, can have an adverse effect on the original goal. Then there's the 60s governmental outlook on the Black Panther Party, as the film goes into detail talking about their COINTEL program and how worried they were about Fred Hampton's political popularity. In the film, they talk about the Black Panthers being a threat to their way of life, and even going as far to say that they're going to rape, kill, and pillage, which to me sounds more like European colonialism, but I'm sure that last statement is bordering on controversy, so I'm going to leave it at that. He mentions dying a revolutionary death, and he makes it very clear that when he gave his life to the people, he gave his actual life. And when you take into account the other assassinations in the 60s with MLK and Malcolm X, it made me further question the price of speaking truth to power. As altruistic as your motives may be, you do have to take into account that the very risk you take with your well-being, especially from a historical standpoint, can be suicidal. Oddly enough, Fred Hampton's willingness to die for something bigger than himself, especially at the age that he was, did kind of remind me of the play about Alexander Hamilton, where he was reminded that dying is easy, living is harder. We then see Fred Hampton forming the Rainbow Coalition, which consists of black, white, and Hispanic demographics, which then broadens his viewpoint to realize that his fight is not only racial, but also a matter of class. In order to make this happen, he does have to reach across the aisle. Now granted, this approach may not always work, but not doing it completely may put a glass ceiling on your ambitions entirely. And of course, with a title like Judas and the Black Messiah, it's hard not to look at certain parallels between all four figures. So here we go. Our Messiah is a man who gains notoriety from his influence to galvanize multitudes of people while challenging the status quo. Our Judas in this case is a man that's so guilt-ridden by the extent of his betrayal that he commits suicide. And no, that's not a spoiler. One died thousands of years ago, the other one was just 30 years ago. The powers that be, being the FBI, would be figures like King Herod, Caiaphas, and Pontius Pilate, and as far as the Chicago police, those would be the Roman soldiers. I like the way the movie was shot and casted, and it's definitely worth watching again, especially for educational purposes. I like Daniel Kaluuya's portrayal in the character, even though at first I had a hard time getting over his accent because he's supposed to be from the Midwest and it just sounded down south, which is a little bit humorous to me. Lakeith Stanfield, and how you can see how conflicted he is with his involvement, he's another one you're going to see more of. And I definitely can't leave out Dominique Fishback, who played Deborah Johnson, the fiancée of Fred Hampton. First time I saw her was last year in Project Power with Jamie Foxx. She's definitely one to keep your eye on. Well, that's my take on Judas and the Black Messiah. Let me know what you think, and if you like what I had to offer, hit that like and subscribe button at the bottom. I'm Isaac Lee. This is The Rundown.